Hey there, Tiff here. Welcome to Ambition Habits. So lovely to have you here. So, today, what going to look at is we're going to be looking at how you can deal with anxiousness before you actually go out and play or worry. And the reason for that is that I know that there's a lot of you out there that want to actually get control of your nerves, you worry about how you're going to play because you know that some days you play well, some days you don't in your sport. And you find that incredibly frustrating because I know that you want to do well. I really understand that because I'm the same when I step out on to play in my sport. I want to make sure that I do really well, but we got to make sure that we know what we need to do to make that happen and control that anxiousness. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you 3 ways in which you can start to get that control back over your anxiousness so that you actually start performing better in your sport. Okay, so this is what we're actually going to be doing today. We're going to be looking at how you can gain control and reduce anxiety in your sports performance. And what we're going to be focusing on is the best thing that you can control in your game other than your mind. Yes, we have to obviously control what we're doing in our mind as well. But what we're going to be focusing on today is what we call a pre-shot routine. Now, a pre-shot routine is something that you do prior to actually performing that skill. So we could use it as a golf example, like you're getting ready to stand on the tee, ready to tee off down the fairway. What you want to be thinking about is what are the steps that lead up to you actually getting set before you're actually teeing off. Okay. Or if you're about to play a serve in tennis, what are the steps that you go through when you're approaching the baseline, getting set over the baseline with the ball and the racket? What's the process you're doing? How many balls are you going to bounce? What are you going to be looking at? And then performing that service action. Okay. So that's what I mean by a pre-shot routine. So number one, it gives you that sense of control and familiarity. Number two, it helps you focus better and helps you concentrate better. Number three, it helps you manage stress and achieve a better mental state. It keeps you in that form of like a routine. We love routines. We thrive on routines and habits. So we want to make sure that we have some form of, like, you could think of it as a habit being in place for you. Number four, it serves as a mental anchor that triggers a state of readiness. So this is like the process that you're going to go through in the preparation of actually getting ready then to perform that skill. And number five, it keeps you focused on the skill at hand, which helps improve your ability to perform under pressure. Because what happens too is that we start worrying about what might happen in the future. And because we're then focusing on that routine, that pre-shot routine leading up to what we actually need to do to perform that particular skill, it helps us focus in that moment. And then that's a better way on how we can deal with that performance under pressure. Because really, that's what that anxiety and that worry is all about, is really about you feeling under pressure. Okay, so what we need to make sure is what we're doing is we're having that sense of control. What can we control that's going to make us feel better? And a really great technique and a great strategy is to have a pre-shot routine in place. Now, I'll give you an example of that. So when I was starting to play golf, what happened with me was that I started to get my tennis demons back. Because if you don't know my background, like, I'm a professional tennis player, tennis coach, I had sports skills business and so on. But what I wanted to be able to do is when I took up golf, because I took up golf when I was 34, I wanted to be able to play a sport again and perform at a high level, so that I could prove to myself that I could, do that. And what was happening though was when I was playing golf and playing competition, what I was noticing was that I was freaking out. I was worrying about how I was going to go. I was having that performance anxiety. I really feared whether I could perform well or not. And all of that actually stemmed back from when I was playing tennis competitively. And what I was finding was that I was nervous all the time, couldn't, I felt heavy in the body. I couldn't think straight. I worried about what everybody thought of me. Um, I kept telling myself that I wasn't good enough and I was making a fool of myself. So, if you can see that, what was actually happening for me when I was playing tennis was that I was freaking out and I didn't have any strategies in place on how to deal with it. So, I would actually come off the court, and this was when I was about 19, when I really, really, really wanted to be the ultimate professional tennis player that I was working towards. But I didn't realize that all of this negativity, this lack of confidence, this lack of having that feeling like I'm in control, that worrying about how I was going to perform, worrying about what people thought of my performance. I had all of this ongoing, and I didn't realize that that was a huge thing, was actually affecting how I would perform in my sport. So, what I didn't want to happen was when I was playing golf, I didn't want those tennis demons to come back and haunt me, because I don't know if you're aware, is like how you perform in one thing is usually how you perform in something else. So, if you get nervous about things, and let's say we'll use sport because sport's the perfect example. If you get nervous about performing in sport, highly likely you'll find that you get nervous in other things that you do too. So what tends to come up is that nervousness. So, and that worry. So what I then did was I developed a pre-shot routine. And why I did that was because I understood that I needed to gain that control over um, my game, because I was just, so fearful and so worried about what could happen that I actually wasn't performing anyway. So I was making a lot of mistakes. I was fearing making mistakes and I was making mistakes, right? So I was actually manifesting in my mind that I was going to make a mistake. I was going to stuff up the shot and therefore the shot wouldn't work. And then what happened? I'd stuff up the shot, right? The shot wouldn't work. So I was already pre-setting that in my mind that that's what was going to happen. So what I then did was I developed a pre-shot routine, and then I practiced it for about a week or two before I actually took it into a comp situation. And the comp was coming up, in that next week or so. So I thought, right, great opportunity. I'm going to apply this pre-shot routine. So what I did, and I'll give you a prime example of actually what happened, because I don't want you to think that, like you've got it all sorted. So when I stepped onto the tee, I went through my routine, teed off. I ended up, it was a par 4 hole, and I ended up with a bogey, which means I was 1 over par. Actually, sorry, I ended up with a double bogey. Sorry, 2 over par. Then I go and play the next hole. It was a par 3 hole, and same thing, teed off, went through my routine, not only from my tee shots, but actually for every other shot, I went through the routine. And again, I ended up with 2 shots over the par, double bogey. By the time I got to the third hole, I was still like, okay, no, just focus on the routine, just trust the routine. It'll be okay. Everything will sort itself out. Played the third hole, and then what happened was then I got another double bogey, which means I was actually 6 over par after the first 3 holes. And I was like, and I was playing a pretty major tournament, and I was like, far out, like this isn't working. Oh my God. But what I said to myself was, give it a chance and keep focusing on that routine for the rest of the round. No matter what happens, don't worry about the score. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't worry about the shots. Just focus on getting the routine right. So what happened from hole 4 to hole 18? So we're talking about the next 15 holes, was that I actually played to par. And the reason that happened was because one, I had settled into my routine and I started to, two, trust the routine. Three, I didn't give up on that routine. And then four, I just kept working through it. Okay. So no matter what was thrown at me, I just focused on the routine. And that was a huge bonus for me because that actually gave me insight to how I could actually control my game and take more control of me when I was playing out on the golf course. So, what does that tell you? What does that actually mean to you? Well, the first thing what it does is it actually tells you that you can take control and manage the anxiety. Okay, because we want to be in control. The second thing it does is it manages the nerves because what we're now doing is we've got something to focus on, which then can give us that regular, consistent routine, right? A pre shot routine keeps you very settled, gives you something to focus on, right? So rather than worrying about what else is going to happen, it's getting you to focus on that. The other thing it does is it helps you stay in the moment. So that's the third thing. All right, so how are we now going to make this to help you? What are some ways in which we can do that? I've already spoken to you about a pre-shot routine and how important that is. So what I want you to do, well, I'm going to give you some action steps here. We're going to have 3 action steps. So the first action step is I want you to think about a particular skill in your sport. So like I said to you, like I was focusing on my full swing and I was focusing on my tee shots especially, but I was actually focusing on really it's the golf swing and just making sure the routine was all the way the same from the tee shot through to the putting. Even I did exactly the same methodology with the routine. So I want you to just find something, and it can be one skill. Like I said before earlier in the introduction, I was talking about the serve in tennis. You could just focus on what you would do with your serve and what routine you'd put in place for that. So, or you could, if you're playing soccer, you could think of a penalty kick, what the process is that you have to go leading up to you actually kicking that ball. So what I want you to do is number one is you've got to pick the skill, okay, that you're going to focus on. The second thing is what you want to do is you want to write down like the actual series of steps that you go through prior to playing your tee shot off the tee box or playing your serve or that penalty soccer kick that you are going to perform. So you want to make sure that like what is the first step, what is the second step, what is the third step, and so on. So I'll give you a really simple example. So if we think of a golf swing, most of you have seen and know what a golf swing looks like. So what you could think about is step one, you're behind the ball, okay, and you're actually picking where you're going to line it up. Step two is you do a practice swing. So you're actually doing a swing, feeling like what the swing needs to feel like when you're actually going to tee off with the ball. The third thing is then you just realign to make sure you've got your line set again so that you know where you need to aim the ball to. The fourth thing is you could breathe as you're walking up to the ball to get set and ready for the ball and the tee. And then you perform your swing. Okay. So what you're actually doing is you've got a series of steps of you getting prepared prior to you actually performing the shot. So that's what we want to make sure that you understand is it's the series of steps that you're actually going to do prior to performing that skill. Then the third thing that you want to do is actually you want to go out. Now that you've written it down, you know what it is and you've written it down, then I want you to go and practice it in a practice session. What is the kind of routine that you want to have in place that's going to keep you nice and calm, nice and steady prior to you actually performing that particular skill in your sport? Now, I'm going to add a fourth thing in there. When you go and play your next game, implement it in your game. Don't give up on it. Try it, test it, see what's working well. You may need to tweak it. You may feel a bit rushed doing it, so you may need to cut it down and make it a bit more simple. But what I want you to do is then go and implement it in your game. And then after that, I want you to give me the feedback of actually what's actually happening. Is, did it work? Did it not? What did you notice that worked well? What did you notice that didn't work so well? And then, you and I can discuss it if you want to via email or so on. Or you can then go and practice something new and start working on that as well. Okay. So that's a really good way to really reduce the anxiety, especially when you're in a high pressure situation. It's about you being calm, and it's about you knowing how that you can then deal with that anxiousness when you're about to play out in your sport. Now, before you go, do you want to perform with consistency and confidence in your sport? Yes, I know you do. So, what you could do is you could go to my website, tiffany-micah.com, and get your 3 steps to confidence with the HAS, the Has Confidence formula. What you want to be doing there with the Has Confidence formula is that what it does for you is it harnesses your strengths and builds resilience. It activates a positive self-talk and mindset and techniques, and it sustains confidence through improving your mental and physical skills. So if you want to work on improving your confidence, then go to my website and get the 3 steps to building your confidence. Love to see you there. If you love the episode from today, fantastic, awesome. Love it if you could leave a comment down below wherever you've heard this episode. Really appreciate it. If you want to reach out and talk to me about what you've discovered about your pre-shot routine, love to hear that too. And for now, I want you to dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams. And I want you to take care, look after yourself, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.